What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming from beautiful Panama. I just arrived here yesterday and I can't wait to show you all the beautiful things I'm gonna see in this place. But today's video is actually gonna be about Costa Rica because, as you may know, I just wrapped up my 3-month stay in Costa Rica and I got asked quite a few times whether Costa Rica is expensive and how much money I spent on this trip. So I thought it would be interesting to just make a video where I can give you guys a kind of a benchmark for how much you might spend for each category of expenses, and then I can also show you exactly how much money I spent the whole time, because I tend to track all my expenses, so it should be fairly straightforward to just calculate it. I really hope it's gonna be useful, especially if you are planning a trip to Costa Rica. And yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first category of expenses you will definitely have to take into account is, of course, accommodation. I personally stayed in hostels the entire time because I'm traveling on a budget, and I can't say it was cheap at all. Like, if you really want to save money, you can go for the cheapest one, but you will still end up spending something around like $15–20 a night. And if you want a private room, probably, of course it depends on the hotel, but maybe it will be around like $40–60 a night, something like that. What I decided to do the last month, which I think was the best value for money, was to sign up for the Selena monthly membership. Selena is one of the most expensive hostels. It's super nice and it tends to be quite pricey. Like, sometimes it's like $70 a night for a bed in a dorm. But because you sign up for the monthly plan, then you're gonna end up spending $450 a month, which ends up being like $15 a day, more or less. So it's very good, and Selena is pretty much everywhere, and you can go to up to 3 different locations every month. So wherever you're gonna travel, probably you're gonna find another Selena where you can spend the rest of your trip. Okay, the second category is food. Food is also quite expensive. I normally eat out because I don't like cooking. I know I'm a very atypical Italian, but yeah, I always try to eat at cheap restaurants, like local restaurants, things like that. And I think I ended up spending on average something like maybe like $10 a meal or something like that. Of course, if you go to proper, nice, fancy restaurants, it's gonna be way more expensive, but yeah, like, I don't think you can get a decent meal for less than like $8 to $10, I would say. If you have a kitchen and you can cook, you might maybe save some money, but I don't even think that much. Like, probably if you eat mainly pasta, rice, like these kind of cheap things, yes, for sure. But if you want to buy like fresh food, I think it probably ends up costing you the same as eating in cheap restaurants. Okay, let's talk transportation. Transportation is a bit tricky because Costa Rica is a small country, but all the most interesting places are just not connected in a very smart way. Like, many times the place you want to go, it's probably not too far away, but there's just no road going straight there, so you might end up going all the way around the country. Like, for example, if you're in Tamarindo and you need to go to Santa Teresa, they're literally on the same coast and they're not even that far away from each other, but there's no road connecting them, so you have to go all the way around the peninsula and it just takes so long. I would say if you can rent a car, which will cost you around $100 per day, that's definitely the most convenient way to get around the country. It's a bit pricey, but if you're sharing it with friends, or if you're not staying here for too long, so you wanna just go and see a lot of places in a very short time, that's definitely worth it, I would say. Otherwise, you can also take a shuttle. Shuttle tend to cost you around, I would say, between $30 and $60–70, depending on where you're going, but it's quite convenient because they will pick you up wherever you are and drop you off also wherever you want to go, of course in the main touristy places in the country, but everywhere I wanted to go there were always shuttles taking me there. So I think that's also an option, especially if you don't want to keep moving from one place to the other. Maybe you want to just go somewhere and then stay for a week, so it doesn't make sense to have a car. It's not super cheap, but I think it's worth considering. And then, of course, the cheapest option is the public bus. This will cost you probably between $6 and $10 for a route that will cost you $60 by shuttle. So yeah, way cheaper, but they tend to be very slow. Sometimes they take few hours more than what they're supposed to. Most of the time you have to go back to San Jose and then take it from there because they only depart from the capital. You might need to speak Spanish because it might be tricky to find the exact terminal and to understand where you have to go. Like, it might be a bit complicated, I would say. So yeah, you need to be very flexible, very patient, but I think if you want to save money, that's totally worth it. Okay, so now I just got my laptop so I can show you exactly how much money I spent in these 3 months. Okay, so every time I spend some money, I'll write it down in my iPhone notes, and then at the end of the day or every couple of days I will input everything into Notion. I love Notion. I use it for a lot of things, and I find it super useful to use it also for expense tracking. I really like this template, and I'm gonna show you how it works. Okay, so it's actually very easy. So the first thing you have to enter is the item that you're spending on. Then the second column will be the cost of it. Then you enter the category, and finally the date. I find it very important to add categories because then you can go here and basically you filter all your entries by category. And in this way you can see, for example, in the month how much money you spent on food, accommodation, transport, and so on. So then what I do next is just to take these numbers and put them into a chart so that I can better understand where my money is going. And for example, November was my first month in Costa Rica. It was a bit of an abnormal month because actually, yeah, there were a lot of expenses under the category others. That includes my flight both to Costa Rica and also the flight I had initially bought to go back home, even if I didn't use it. Then I also had to buy a new phone because it got stolen. I had like, yeah, health insurance, gym subscriptions, like all these one-off expenses that like not everyone would have. So you can even like take them out to have a better understanding of like normal cost of living there. But yeah, overall I spent about like over $700 for each of the main categories like transport, accommodation, and food. Okay, my second month was November, and here I didn't really move that much around the country because I was working in Tamarindo all the time. So as you can see, I spent way less money, just over $1,200. And this was pretty much evenly split between food and accommodation, just about $600 each. And my third month was January. Here I started traveling a lot, so as you can see I spent way more than the previous month. Again, don't really look at the category others because again here I had to buy a new drone, new suitcase, a bunch of clothes because I was supposed to go to the US and it was gonna be cold, so that's why I bought a lot of stuff that normally I wouldn't buy. But yeah, still I spent about $600 for accommodation, almost $300 for transport, and on food I think I spent less than the other month. I don't know why, but yeah, in January I spent just over $400 on food. So for the 3 months I ended up spending about $6,600, but as you saw there were a lot of unplanned, unrelated expenses like my drone, my new phone, my flight ticket. So I would say if you are traveling cheap, as a benchmark you might probably end up spending about $1,500 a month. Like I think that's more like the actual cost of my travel. But of course if you're planning to have a car to go out, drink, go to fancy restaurants, expensive hotels, that would very easily increase. So yeah, as you can see, Costa Rica is quite expensive, especially compared to Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, like all the other countries in Central America. But it's also very beautiful and also safer than the other countries, I would say. So these were some of the reasons why I decided to come here. But I would say if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, I would have been probably going to Asia instead. Asia is definitely way cheaper, but it was just so hard to go there with all the quarantine restrictions, country literally closing up to tourists. So yeah, that's why I decided to come here, but hopefully I'll be in Asia in the next month, fingers crossed. And that was all for today's video, guys. I really hope now you have a better understanding of how much it costs to travel to this region. Hopefully it's gonna be useful for your next trip if you're planning to come in here. If you have any more questions, please leave it down in the comment or just shoot me a message. I'll be super happy to help you with this. If you found it useful, also don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more travel content. And I really hope to see you in the next video.